Welcome to Bridging Chicago, a podcast that aims to connect our listeners to Chicago's business, community, cultural, and charity leaders.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bridging Chicago podcast. My name is Nathan Shula and I'm your host for today's episode. Be sure to check out our website, www.bridgingchicago.com, to check out Season 6 as well as all of our prior episodes of the podcast. Today, we are happy to be joined by PJ Weiland, a Chicago business coach at Business Profit and author of Dinking Thru Life, Lessons from the Pickleball Court. PJ, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's nice to see you, Nathan.
Yeah, I know that we talked a little bit before we started here, and this is something that you're well versed at, sharing your story and sharing about what you're doing, and so we're excited to get to talk to you. We always start with your Chicago story because we are Bridging Chicago. And so can you tell us about where you're from, your Chicago connection, and what it is that you enjoy about our city?
Yes, I have been in Chicago since 2001. I'm from the Midwest, so a Midwest city is definitely, Chicago's that big Midwest city, which is what I love about Chicago. I lived in a lot of smaller towns, and there's nothing like the heart of the city. I was in there yesterday showing it off to some visitors, and just to be proud of the city and what it has to offer is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, Chicago is such a fun city to show off. I know that a lot of times when people come here, they want to see the Bean, they want to see Navy Pier, they want to see the museums, which are amazing, obviously, but there's so many parts of it that are so vibrant and so fun to see that are in the neighborhoods, and people know about Chicago's neighborhoods, but there's so many neighborhoods. I think I go out to Albany Park on Saturday mornings because I play volleyball out there, and I mean, just the number of different restaurants that are out there from all different cultures, the number of languages you'll hear spoken on the street. It's amazing to think like we're in Chicago and we have all this around us, and getting to show that off is always really fun.
I agree.
With that, I know you said you grew up here in the Midwest. It's a very active city, especially if you didn't grow up. It's a very active area. If you didn't grow up in the city, there's all kinds of space. You know, I grew up in a farm town, so you could ride your bike around. You could go play baseball. There's plenty of open space to do those kinds of things. Is that similar to your experience? Did you kind of grow up being very active?
I grew up very active, very playing all types of sports, all types of activities. I'm from a family of 8 kids, so
Wow.
we had our own baseball team, our own basketball team, our own.
Yeah. Yeah, 4 pickleball teams there.
And we had plenty of people to play with, so
Yeah.
that definitely colored how I see the world in the element of sports. It's been very important in my life.
Well, it's interesting because it obviously became such a huge part of your life. But one of the things I think about sports that's really important that it teaches very early is the value of teamwork and the value of relying on other people to help you accomplish a goal. Is that something that you noticed very early that you really enjoyed, or what was it about the teamwork aspect do you think that helps you now as an adult that other people could experience as well?
I enjoy the leadership that comes with sports. The element of working as a team, working on yourself, but as part of the team, and knowing that when others count on you, the better you are, the better you can contribute to the entire team. So that's always been a part of it. I've mostly played team sports, not as much. I played tennis, but it was doubles. I've played, I did volleyball, with small teams or big teams, but mostly things that involve some strategy and the competitive nature of things, whether it was recreational or actually competitive. I really enjoyed that part of it in particular.
Yeah, that's why I like volleyball a lot, because you're so reliant on your teammates to help you, because it's impossible to win that sport by yourself. You're so reliant on the passers doing their thing, the setter doing their thing, and then giving you an opportunity to hit the ball, and then switching that over to defense. And it seems like that's something for me that has really been a great lesson is, when you're transitioning from offense to defense, you have to think in a completely different way all of a sudden. And it's not like someone else gets to come in and now they're on defense. It's like you only get to play offense if you also play defense. And I think for me, that's been a real lesson in that being able to transition like that has taught me how to transition and be flexible and just be able to pivot really well in life, and how important that can be and the difference that can make.
Absolutely. When I moved to Chicago, pretty early on, I joined a soccer team, and I played soccer for about 15 years with a group of women until COVID hit, and then the arena we played at the shut down, and I had to find a new sport. So it is about a sport, and they all have some similarities, but the mastering of a new sport has been a great challenge for me.
Yeah, let's talk about your new sport a little bit, because my first experience with pickleball definitely comes from this. I hope this doesn't sound offensive, but when I was in high school, we would play pickleball. If the coach didn't want to like plan to do anything else, they're like, "I'll go play pickleball," because he knew we loved it. So he's like, I don't want to do anything, so go play pickleball," and it was like the best day ever. But can you explain to us a little bit about what it is? Its rise in popularity. There are so many courts now in Chicago. Talk to me about its rise in popularity, and then some of those similarities that you see in pickleball, how that transfers from the court to real life.
So I am a newer person to the pickleball sport. I got into pickleball about a little over a year and a half ago. So I'm pretty darn new to it, but I am a tennis player, so I have played racket sports. So there's a group of people that take on pickleball that play racket sports, and there's people that never played racket sports. So there's kind of two different types of people who join. Pickleball has such a wide appeal because of its social nature, its easy learning curve, and it is an easy sport. I played soccer. We had to have 7, 8, 10, 11 people on the field. You had to have another 11 on the other side. It was a very coordinated effort. Pickleball, you show up at a court, you have a racket, you have a ball, and you just find people to play with. And so there's very little effort, very little coordination. It's very fluid. And that was very appealing to me because, schedules and getting people coordinated wasn't that interesting when you can just show up and play. Kind of like pick up basketball. You just show up and play.
Yeah. You made me think about the fact that like pickleball also doesn't require a ton of resources, because a lot of the sports, lacrosse, for example, hockey, are popular but expensive, and it's just one of those things where many families are having to choose between, unfortunately, a lot of families have to choose between like getting good quality nutrients to their families, or allowing their kids to go on field trips to go to have these cultural experiences, to play in sports. And unfortunately, we see how the arts and sports take a hit in that. But with pickleball, it's something where it doesn't require a ton of resources, and you can pretty much do it indoor or outdoor just as easily.
Yes, there's a lot of indoor played in gyms, just like basketball gyms.
Yeah.
The park districts around the country have taken that on to make sure that the courts are lined. The outdoor courts, the tennis courts that have been either converted or lined with pickleball, the ability to show up and actually bring your own net if you want. That is also happens for a lot of people. In their own driveway, they put a net up, play. It's about the right width and it's about the right size, so that happens frequently. But the convenience of it is a huge factor in the entry. The barriers to entry are just low for pickleball.
Yeah. Do you see that causing it to grow in areas that are maybe under-resourced? Are there communities that can more easily provide space and resources for kids to play pickleball who haven't been able to play other sports but want to get involved in something?
Oh, that's a great question. I do see a lot of families playing, and I do see the teenage population. As you said, many of these teenagers took it in high school or in grade school. So it's kind of funny because I didn't do that in grade school or high school, but there's a whole generation that has learned pickleball but never played pickleball in any capacity until recent years. And so they're familiar. they're willing to take it on. There's oftentimes when I'll go out to the courts and I'll play a 14, 15, 16-year-old, 2 or 3 kids. And it's a very level sport where I can play and I can hold my own, or beat them, and they're kind of shocked at
Yeah,
times.
yeah. I've seen that with twos beach volleyball a lot too. It's like people who've been playing that sport for a long time will just go out there and just crush these, 16-year-old kids who are like, oh yeah, I'm the best. And then it's like, maybe not quite what you thought.
No. And that is one of the lessons that I do teach in the book, and I do draw the parallel to is, looks can be deceiving, right? You
Yeah,
walk on the court and you're thinking, I can clearly, win this match. And yet, the person on the other side is maybe older, maybe looks less mobile even. But man, they can slice a ball, they can place it well, they can hold their own on the court, they know where to be, they know the strategy, and it's surprising. And in life, we have to recognize that we can't, judge a book by its cover, right? We have to look at what the skills are that they bring to the table. And because the aging population does play a lot more pickleball, it actually shows that, they are just as capable and can
yeah,
totally hold their own and often do better than you can. Uh,
yeah.
so it's a great reminder for that as well.
But on the flip side of that, it also kind of provides that bridge between those generations where, for me, I think about, unfortunately, I don't have any grandparents living anymore, but I think about, if I did, I mean, there are 60 and 70-year-olds who are playing pickleball who are good. And it seems like it's a natural way to kind of help build some of those bridges and kind of keep those connections, so that sometimes people just need something to come around. They just need a commonality to sort of build off of, so that it's like, well, I don't know what to talk about. Hey, let's go play pickleball. And then all of a sudden you're spending that quality time with that person that you're really cherishing.
You bring up a great point, Nathan. When there are several people that I play with regularly that are seniors and they live alone and they use it as a social outlet, but they also are good
Yeah.
and they come out and it's a lot of fun. The court's small enough, unlike tennis, that you actually have conversations. You can actually enjoy the camaraderie because you are in close proximity with people.
Hmm.
Even when you're playing a heated match, you can still have that verbal camaraderie, which is really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. I'm glad you brought up the book because I'd love to hear about the book. I think we have to start though with this 30-day challenge thing, because I saw that and I was like, I kind of jokingly was like, I saw this 30-day book writing challenge and I was like, challenge not accepted. 30 days, that seems nuts. But this
Yeah,
is something that you took on, and it's something that obviously for you meant something. So let's kind of start there about this 30-day challenge to write and publish this book, kind of where you found that, and then, when you first started, how you were able to kind of take that step from like, oh, I have this idea and here's this challenge. Now, how am I going to actually get a book out of that?
it's a great question, and I have a history of doing kind of unusual things, and I'll leave it at that. So, and the creative side of me is there in trying to find something that just is a little different. And I was at the pickleball court and I was just chatting with people and I said something about that being similar to life. It's no different than life. And a colleague, a player said, you should write a book on that. And that was like 6 o'clock on a weeknight. And I went home that night and I kind of laughed because I had published a book in April of this year, and my first book. And it took me 3 to 4 years. It was a long project. It changed directions a half a dozen times. It should not have taken that long. And so when I heard this, and I have another book that I'm thinking of writing, or I actually have the table of contents ready to go, and he said that, I'm like, this is ridiculous. I can do it in 30 days. And I just dreamt that up and said, I thought about it tonight. Today is day 0, and therefore it's the concept, and I'm going to go from concept just that very little germ of an idea to Amazon in 30 days. And it was just something that I personally have decided to push myself to, and didn't know if it was 100% possible. I believed it was, otherwise I wouldn't have completely taken it on.
Right.
But I didn't really know how that was going to happen. I just figured I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I put my mind to it, and I'm a planner, I understand how to do, project management 101. I
Yeah.
figured I just had to put my head down and figure that out.
Yeah.
So that's where it started.
Wow. What were your biggest challenges that you faced in these 30 days, getting it kind of over the finish line there?
Sure. The like after about day one, I panicked a little bit because the type of book I was going to write and how I was going to write it, I had to get my head wrapped around it because I didn't. It was truly from a concept. It wasn't anything that I had to um, find an illustrator because there was going to be a high illustration element to this book. I draw, but not like that, not in any capacity. So I had to find an illustrator who was willing to take this crazy journey with me, and willing to do it, uh, and not really know what they're getting into either, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I put out the call. I tried a bunch of different, and I had to try fast. I couldn't like just meander through this. I had to just make a decision fast, and I had to find my partner really, really fast,
Yeah. Yeah.
and bet on that working. So I put out to 3 different illustrators, and I was not excited about it. And then I finally said, I'm just going to go out. I went on social media and said, I need an illustrator.
Mm.
And I talked to about 40 illustrators in about a 24-hour period of time. And when I tell them I'm doing a 30-day challenge, I need 60 illustrations in 20 days, 100% completed. Most of them laughed at me. Most of them told me no. Most of them was like, I'm not your person. They stepped back.
Yeah.
I was not getting it, and I ended up with the daughter of a high school classmate who I haven't spoken to in 25 years, whatever, long time, but happens to be connected on Facebook. And she said her daughter was a good candidate, and she's
Wow.
been amazing. I couldn't ask for a better partner.
Yeah. Man, social media really changed the game for everything, which is awesome.
So
And I,
that's a huge challenge. That was probably my biggest challenge because it was something I couldn't control
yeah.
and I couldn't do. I had to have a great partner because I couldn't pick up where they left off. I couldn't fill the gaps. If
Right.
they couldn't do it, it wasn't going to happen.
Mm. But I think also, I mean, good for the people who said, I'm not your person, because I think it can be hard to say no, especially when it's something, when it's your life's work, it's how you make your money. You want to say yes to as many things as possible. But I think sometimes saying no and saying, look, I'm just not a match is a good thing.
Yeah. And I had talked to a lot of people, and it was tricky, but I felt really good about this particular young woman and her potential, and her style was what I was looking for as well, because I had to have the right style. That was one hurdle. Another hurdle is as yesterday, I changed project managers on my formatting team for the fourth project manager. So that was really stressful, but I was always optimistic, but it kept changing hands, and it was at the same company, the same organization that I was working with, but there was just a series of events that I had my fourth project manager yesterday.
Yeah.
So that was tough.
Yeah. The book is called Dinking Through Life, Lessons from the Pickleball Court. And so we have some expectation of what it is about. But can you share with us what the book is about, sort of why it happened, and what people can expect to learn from Dinking Through Life?
Sure. So when the germ of an idea was that there was so many parallels between sports and between pickleball in particular and life, and what we can learn. And as a business coach, which is what I do full time as a job,
Mm-hmm.
I'm often drawing parallels and analogies to people and helping them understand what they're experiencing or what they need to change.
Mm-hmm.
So sports are, as we say, coaching is not just for sports.
Yeah.
So that was an element of it. And I thought on day one, if I can draw 60, 70 parallels, then I have a book here. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was my first day one activity, was to draw a set of parallels and just start to really map that out, and found that it was not that complicated because there are just so many, whether it's,
Yeah.
just even in pickleball, you dink, which is a very, very soft game. And so when in life do we need to be patient and just um, be
Mm-hmm.
patient and let the game unfold and not force something.
Yeah.
So those lessons, um, it's a partner game. So how you partner with someone, or how you help your partner or hinder your partner, is a big part of the book as well. And when
Yeah.
you set your partner up for something that's not so good, yeah, a smash, a tough ball, you work together, and how you move around the court, you work together. So just the parallels are never ending. So it was actually choosing the ones to put in the book, because it could have been a lot longer. But I really said I wanted about 55, 60 parallels to life on
Mm-hmm.
the court and in life, is really how I set up the book,
Yeah.
with a pickleball analogy, and then what's happening on the court and what you're experiencing, and then how does that relate to your life and how you can take that lesson forward.
I think that's so good because there's a lot of people who have these lessons because they've played some sport, and so they've learned these lessons, but kind of transitioning those to life is not always as straightforward. What you were describing with thinking, I think of small ball with baseball, where you got the bunting and you're hitting for base hits so you can eventually get runs in. Everyone would love to hit a home run, but I think small ball is equally as important. But taking those things that you learn in sports or from teamwork and bringing those into your everyday life is not always an easy thing. And I assume that as a business coach, that's something that you have had to help people learn how to do, to say, okay, what are the lessons that you've learned through your lived experience, or experiences that you're getting from mentors or other coaches? What are those experiences, and how can you bring them into what you're doing now and what you hope to do in the future?
Yes, there is. Analogies are a great way for people to learn.
Mm,
It's a great way for people to see things that they can't see otherwise. So always using that analogy and that example is really helpful, I find, in the work I do with
yeah,
people. You mentioned that pickleball is one version of that. As I was editing the book, my niece is a very big volleyball player, and she was like, "Ah, I could see everything in this in volleyball.
yeah,
Let's,
yeah,
are you ready to do something different in volleyball?" I was like, "Let's start with just one." But
yeah.
but that is true, because we learn. There's a saying that says, how we do games or how we play life.
Yeah,
And so if you're on the court with someone who's kind and polite, or who's generous as a partner, as a teammate, they probably are like that in life.
yeah.
And that's, if they're competitive, they're probably like that in life.
Yeah.
um,
Or if you have a weakness, that's probably something maybe you have in life, and that's also something where it's like, oh, I can address that. I can work on that. I can be better at that, so that my partner doesn't have such a hard time.
and that's an interesting element, because we do, when I play tournaments occasionally, and it's funny because I played in a tournament that was 19 and up, 19 to 50 was the age range of the group I was playing in. And when I play with the younger people, they become more impatient, and pickleball
Mm,
is kind of a patient game. So age helps in that,
yeah,
where I can be a little bit more patient than they might be able to, because it's like, it's going to happen. I'm not worried. It's going to happen. Uh,
yeah,
but yeah, you learn where your weaknesses are, as well. Is that, well, I'll get that. I can get there. No, you got to actually get there.
yeah, yeah.
You can't just assume things are going to happen on the court. You have to make them happen.
Right. And sometimes you can try and get there, and you may not quite get there, but you'll get there the next time.
Yes, and be forgiving of yourself and your partner, uh,
Yeah,
in that. And there's a lot of thing about sports where it's the next shot, right? It's the next shot, and you can't think about the last shot, because there's going to be another one. So you
yeah,
have you have to move on, and that can be hard in life. I've played with partners where mindset is a big issue, where they beat themselves up, and it's like, no, we're going to keep going. We're going to go. We're going to go. We gotta raise ourselves and just not worry about what happened last.
Yeah.
And it's a short game. It's 11 points, so
Yeah.
anyone can win or lose at any point in time. And I've come back from a 0-10 to win
Wow.
because I believed I could, and
Yeah.
I didn't let that get behind me. But it's easy to let that get in your head.
Yeah. I've played a handful of times. It's a super fun sport. However, as a volleyball player, it is so hard for me to get out of my head not to smash every ball.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh, it's right there. I'm gonna smash it, and then they'll pass it, and because I smashed it, they passed it behind me, and I'm like, well, can't get that ball. So it takes a lot of patience to learn. Like, not as the book says, dinking through life. Not everything has to be a smash, and not every smash is a good one.
Yeah, that's a funny thing because I do play with volleyball players sometimes, and they're like, "I played volleyball," and you're like, "Yeah, you're going to have to kind of reprogram a little bit to
Yeah.
see it more of a chess match, more things unfolding versus every opportunity that sets itself up, for sure."
Yeah. And I hope that people don't let those kinds of things keep them from trying something else, trying something different. You say, because I think, there's a lot of reasons why pickleball is rising in popularity, but I have to think that one of them is because the game is so different every time that you play, and it keeps it so interesting. We that, I think, along with those other things that we talked about, the resources, the availability of courts, and those kinds of things, I think makes it to where it's so fun because you just don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, there is some truth to that, especially because it's such a short game. Most games are anywhere from 10 to 20
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
That the game lasts a relatively short period of time. There's a lot of movement between partners and who you're playing, and you're in the elements. If you're outside, the wind is a factor sometimes.
Right.
But it's that it changes really quickly. So you can play in a couple hours. You can play 8 games, which is and 20 different people. So you have a lot going in, and as we say, any game you can win, and any game you can lose. And
Yeah.
sometimes you're surprised that you lose as bad as you do, and then you turn around and you win as good as you do. They're the same people, and it doesn't make any sense, which makes it fun.
Yeah, I want to close just on your business coach self, because I know that's something you do,
Yes.
sort of as the big part of your life, and I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about that, about Business Profit,
Yeah.
Your company, and just share with us about Business Profit and about what it means to you to be able to be a coach, to be able to help other people along their journey, and what you hope to see in the future with that.
Yes. I have been coaching for about 15 years now, and I really enjoy that connection I make with business owners and executives to help them achieve whatever goal they have, whatever they're facing, to help them get clarity around it and then see a path forward. I do a lot of work in the financials. I do a lot of work in the marketing. I do a lot of work in the mindset, because those are the areas that tend to be the hot buttons for most business owners. And those are areas that they can be confusing, they can be complex, or they can be the financials or the mindset. That's a lot about what you have to learn or what you have to believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll work with them in those areas in particular. And part of me doing this book was to challenge myself like I would challenge business owners, and to put yourself out there. And at some point in the process, I thought, if this book takes 34 days, that's still a success.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want it to, but if it took 34 days, it didn't take 3 to 4 years. So it's okay.
Yeah.
But that element of challenging yourself, and I challenge my clients all the time. What are you doing to move yourself forward today?
Yeah.
And so I've logged about it every day to show the process of what was going to happen. and the ups and downs, because there were days when I was like, we totally got this. We are going to be ahead of schedule. And other days I was like, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And can I tell you, Nathan, that right before we got on the phone, I pushed the button and published on day 29.
Wow. Congrats. That's awesome.
So it was great. And there was one output, one speed bump along the way that was pretty significant, and it actually became a blessing. And sometimes we don't see that, right?
Yeah.
And what happened was I got my first copy of the book about day 7 or 8. And I ordered it early, and I just was doing some random, just trial runs.
Yeah.
And I hated it.
Mm.
And I was like, I don't like this book. I don't like how it fell in my hand. I didn't like this. And what came out of that was, I'm going to do an adult coloring book to go along with this book. And so I not only have this book, this hardcover book, but I also now, tomorrow, I'm going to push the button on pushing a second book in the 30 days, which is a 8.5 by 8.5 adult coloring pickleball book.
Yeah.
So that, I wouldn't have done that. I wasn't going out to do that, but it was a bump along the road that I could make the most of this and look at what I can do.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool, but to teach your clients that even those bumps along the way are opportunities.
Yeah. Can you tell us where to get the book and any release dates that you have out there for projects that are coming up?
Sure. So I did push the button today, which is July 18th. And it is, Amazon takes 3 days, up to 72 hours to put it live on their site.
Okay.
So it'll be live on Friday. It is available on Amazon. I am working on getting it available on Barnes & Noble as well as Ingram. So that's in the process. But Amazon on Friday, the coloring book that goes with it will be available also on Friday as well. It'll be published tomorrow. You can get it on dinkingthrulife.com, which is through my website, or you can go to Amazon directly. It is the hardcover book is $26.99, and the softcover book is $19.99, and the coloring book is $14.99.
Awesome. Yeah. PJ, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. It has been really, really, I've loved hearing about your story. I've loved hearing what you have to share. I think it's so cool. And I hope that other people kind of take that spirit and go do what they enjoy doing.
Yeah. And challenge yourself. You don't know where you'll end up when you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we also want to thank you for tuning into this episode of the Bridging Chicago podcast. You could be sure to visit PJ at www.business-profit.com and get a copy of her book, Dinking Thru Life, Lessons from the Pickleball Court, at www.dinkingthru, that's THRU, life.com, or on Amazon. Again, that's www.dinkingthrulife.com or on Amazon. Finally, you can find more ways to connect with her and listen to our other episodes of the podcast on our website, www.bridgingchicago.com. PJ, thanks again for tuning in. Thanks to our listeners. We've really enjoyed having you today.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Bridging Chicago, as produced by the SATC Solutions Center. Nothing contained in this podcast shall constitute financial, investment, legal, and/or professional advice. No professional relationship of any kind is created between you and the podcast host or guest. You are urged to speak with your financial, investment, or legal advisors before making any investment or legal decisions. Furthermore, the opinions expressed in this podcast are not necessarily the opinions of SATC Solutions Center, SATC Law, or any of its employees. This podcast is created by the hosts and guests' individual capacities. All opinions on this podcast are or have been rendered based on specific facts, under certain conditions, and are subject to certain assumptions and may not and should not be used or relied upon for any other purpose, including but not limited to, or use in or in connection with any investment purposes or legal proceeding.